So no Steph.
Oh no, he hadn't even played long enough.
Oh!
He got to finish his career.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. So in a recent interview, Julius Erving, aka Dr. J, shared his top 10 list of the greatest NBA players ever, and since then many NBA players and analysts have voiced their disapproval of the supposed biases in the list, especially the lack of any active NBA players. Someone who has been vocal about the list is Stephen A. Smith. Even though Stephen A. respects Dr. J's opinion, he disagreed with the snubbing of names like Larry Bird, LeBron, Kobe, Shaq. Julius Erving obviously is a legend. His contributions are immeasurable. He earned the respect of his peers and also enlightened the younger generations with his approach towards the game. During his time, he was considered to be one of the greatest to ever step on the court. He ended up influencing the game of arguably the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan. Dr. J is part of the top 50 greatest players of all time, ranking only behind LeBron James and Larry Bird as the best small forward of all time. So Stephen A's point was that he left out names like LeBron, Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird, who arguably had better careers than some of the names on his list. Before I share my reaction to this, let's first listen to Dr. J, then listen to Stephen A. Smith, so that we are all on the same page.
Give me your top 10 all time.
The five I just named.
Okay, in that order.
Okay. No, there's no order really.
Okay.
I mean, I think West and Robertson would be in the back court. Elgin Baylor would be in the front court with Wilt and Bill Russell. The next group of guys would be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Irvin Magic Johnson, probably Karl Malone, and my last guy. I always argue with my other son about where Tim Duncan belongs. And he's like, he belongs ahead of Karl Malone for sure. But I'm taking Karl Malone. And that last position, I like leaving a Tiny Archibald.
Wow. So no Steph.
Oh no, he hadn't even played long enough.
Oh!
He got to finish his career.
Ooh.
Everybody I named in there, their career's finished.
That
right?
is true. That is true.
Right.
Okay, so she didn't choose any active players, obviously, Stephen A. What's your biggest issue with Dr. J's list?
Well, exactly that. He didn't choose any active players. You can't have an all-time. Listen, this is Dr. J. Julius Erving, and for people to talk about that, they're angry, ridiculous. He's entitled to his opinion. I just think he's wrong. You cannot have, I don't care what players you mention, you cannot have an all-time top 10 list and LeBron James is not on it. You just can't. I've got LeBron James as a top 2 player all time. What do you mean, he's not on the list? You talk about Steph not being on the list. Steph has been in the league for over a decade. He's got 4 championships. LeBron James has been in the league for 20 years. He played more years than most of the players Dr. J had on the list. So certainly experience is not an issue there. LeBron James, with what he brings to the table, is one of the top 2 or 3 players in the history of basketball. Anybody that knows basketball knows that. And so Dr. J with his all-time list, that's just showing deference and respect to pioneers who paved the way. When you say Oscar Robertson, Russell Westbrook averaging triple-doubles like it's going out of style. Well, Oscar Robertson started that. Jerry West, one of the all-time greats, the silhouette. But he's only got 1 championship and lost to 8 NBA finals. We look at an Elgin Baylor. He's got a title or 2. We get all of that. LeBron's got 4. Steph has got 4. You want to put Magic in there? You want to put Kareem in there? That's fine. Karl Malone, no titles. Nate Tiny Archibald, no doubt, one of the greatest point guards in the history of basketball and a man that will always be near and dear to me. He gave me one of my first interviews ever when I was a high school reporter when I was a freelance reporter trying to become a high school reporter. Nate Archibald gave me my first interview. I love this man. But you talk about Magic, you talk about Isaiah Thomas, you talk about Steph Curry, you even talk about the Jason Kidds of the world and others and CP3s. Even though Nate Tiny Archibald led the league in scoring and assists one season, I understand it. But you cannot leave off a LeBron James from the top 10 list. Everything else is debatable. I would refute some of those other selections that you made. Again, Karl Malone, stuff like that. But Kobe Bryant left off, Steph Curry left off, LeBron James left off, the greatest power forward who ever lived, Tim Duncan left off, Larry Bird left off. especially what Larry Bird did to the Philadelphia 76ers most of the time when Dr. J was a member of the 76ers.
You're going to have to ask Mad Dog about this.
Come on
He's
now.
going to be mad. Larry
Dr.
legend.
J. Love Dr. J.
Yeah.
Class personified. Come on, bro. Come on, man.
I believe you've heard Stephen A. Smith and also Dr. J. So Stephen A. was on Fast Tech, obviously, ESPN. He understood that active players were not part of the list, but still, he was in disbelief that LeBron James didn't make the list. I totally get Stephen A.'s point because look at LeBron James' resume right now. He broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. He is a 4-time champion, 4-time finals MVP. He has won the regular season MVP. He has won with multiple teams. His passing is elite. Steph Curry, on the other hand, the greatest shooter the NBA has ever seen. The reason why in the modern game teams shoot many threes is Steph Curry. He changed the game. I think the lady should have asked, why not Shaq? Why not Kobe? Why not Larry Bird? Because he already made it clear that he was not going to include active players. So that was done. But now, you can imagine an all-time list without Shaq, a top 10 list without Shaq in it, or Kobe in it, or Larry Bird. He has to give, like, good reasons why. On the other hand, I also understand him because he played against majority of these guys. He knows them well. He knows who's tough and who's not. So to him, it's not about stats alone. It's about skill and talent, or maybe toughness, or maybe it's just his preference, because you can think of somebody like Hakeem Olajuwon, who was very skilled, didn't make the list. I know many people would never put Karl Malone in a top 10 because he didn't win. So it's also refreshing to have one of the greats to give a different perspective. What do you think about Dr. J's list? Please drop a comment. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Thank you.